Wow, I hit the button. Damn. Okay, anyway, this is this William Lane Craig video, and debating God's existence, blah blah blah. So yeah, we'll play some of this. Probably no real point. This will be a real big, huge, giant time waster. So this is his opening remarks. I probably should just do clips of this, but we'll see how it goes.
Exists. Now, in order to answer that question rationally, we've got to address two further questions. First, what good reasons are there to think that God exists? And secondly, what good reasons are there to think that God does not exist? Now, I'll leave it up to Dr. Dacey to present the evidence against God's existence. In my opening speech, I want to sketch briefly 6 lines of evidence that weigh in favor of God's existence. No.
Yeah, well, you got no hope. Okay, there's no hope. So go ahead, play your game.
Number 1, then, God is the best explanation of why something exists rather than nothing.
Yeah, well, that's just, so now we're just going to go through this lame crap that you needed a God to create God, to create God, to create God. I mean, it's infinite regression. You're just saying, okay, the infinite chicken, okay, gets to exist, and it lays the egg, let's say, of humanity. I mean, it's just a stupid explanation. You can't just say the chicken always existed, because I can obviously say, if we can do this always existed thing, then I can just say that energy always existed. The little bits were always going the speed of light. They just collapse and expand over and over and over, forever and ever and ever. And there's the explanation. I could also explain it in some more progressive way, like there was an initial crack in the nothing, some sort of error the universe made, and after trillions and trillions of permutations, it makes like 1 quanta per Big Bang is added, or some kind of nonsense like that. But yes, it's very easy to explain dumb forces. It's really hard to explain forever chicken.
This is the deepest question of philosophy. Why is there anything rather than nothing?
Yeah, well, nothing would be impossible to contain also. It's a difficult question. No, I'm not taking that away from it. It's not like it's some easy question to answer, like why is there something? Why is there energy? But again, you don't answer it by saying, well, there was a forever chicken, and it clucked it. It clucked the universe. What the hell is that? That's not an explanation. It's not rational. It's not reasonable. It's nonsense.
Experience teaches that anything that exists has an explanation of its existence, either in its own nature or in an external cause.
Right, so we can see evolution, we can see the whole chemistry thing. We've figured out a lot of this stuff, where the elements come from, the sun, the supernovas, all of that stuff. So we see it goes from simpler matter to more complex matter, both in elementary form and then in compounds. And time is what allows this opportunity for matter to become more complex.
You see, anything that exists is either one of 2 types. The first type is something that exists necessarily, by its own nature. Example, many mathematicians believe numbers and other abstract objects exist in...
Well, they're not abstract objects, so again, it's just stupid. Okay, they're not. Alright, they're abstractions when you write them on a piece of paper. They're representations of something else, but again, they're representations of something. And when they're used as a language, they're used as descriptions of something. Okay, the category of 2, the category of 4. You can go right on down the list of all the numbers. These are categorical circumstances. These are properties that groups of things have. It's all about relationships of circumferences to diameters. These are relationships that exist in the real world. They're not abstractions. They're not fake. They're correlations in reality. They have material correlates.
This way. If such entities exist, they just exist necessarily, without any cause of their being. The other
Well,
time,
again, like I said, so your premise is wrong, okay? Nothing can be a two without there being a cause. It has to be caused to be in the two condition. To acquire the property of two-ness, it has to be two. One thing has to be shoved against another thing. It has to happen that way.
is anything that has an external cause of its existence. Examples? Mountains, planets, galaxies, people. They have causes outside themselves which explain why they exist. Now, it's obvious that the universe exists. It therefore follows that the universe has an explanation of its existence.
Right, so let's understand the universe is clouds, balls of gas, of atoms, mostly elementary atoms and energy. It's in rudimentary, crude form. Only a tiniest of fractions of the universe gets anywhere near the complexity of peanut butter, let alone the complexity of the crust of the surface of Earth is now littered with this this bacterial life.
But what sort of explanation is it? Well, it seems plausible that if the universe has an explanation of its existence, that explanation is an external, transcendent, personal cause.
Okay, personal cause. So he keeps doing this personal thing. How does that make any sense at all? What does that mean, personal cause? It's just silly talk. What does that mean? So what we're saying is yeah, something had to cause it. Something causes the existence. And again, but the existence can be just like your God, your fake eternal chicken. I can just say there's eternal energy. Alright, and it seems a lot more plausible to say that a photon of light has always been traveling at the speed of light in a direction than it is to say the super chicken always existed.
Why? Because the cause in this case must be greater than the universe. Think of the universe.
Why? Again, that's another false premise. We see all over the place, all around us, where simple things can become complex things by merely putting the simple things together, ordering them. Air becomes tornadoes. We don't need God's finger to swirl it. The super chicken doesn't have to cluck a tornado into existence. Rudimentary forces create circumstances. Those circumstances create something that appears to be more complex than its parts.
All of space and time. So the cause of the universe must be beyond space and time.
Yeah, says you, right? There's absolutely nothing that says it must be beyond space and time. Nothing saying it has to be more complex than the universe. Nothing says any of that. And every bit of scientific evidence points to rudimentary things rolling like a like a tumbleweed. And the tumbleweed rolls and it collects dirt, it collects particles, it collects stuff. And now it becomes more complex just by tumbling.
Therefore, it cannot be physical and material. Now, there are only two kinds of things that fit that description. Either abstract objects, like numbers.
Again, they're not abstract. Okay, there's nothing abstract about the category 2. There's nothing abstract about the relationship between circumferences and radiuses.
Or else an intelligent mind. But abstract objects can't cause anything. Therefore, it follows that the explanation of the universe is an external, transcendent, personal cause.
An external, transcendent, personal cause. So again, what's this personal crap? External, you're already saying transcendent. As soon as you made it external, so that's just redundant. So this is what you call an intelligent preface to your speechifying on the subject. You're going to sit there and use words like this. This is how you're going to describe your super eternal chicken that sat around for all of eternity and then one day clucked the human race into existence. Oh, please.
Which is what everyone means by God.
Oh, God, speaking for everyone now. I mean, amazing. I mean, that's just amazing. What are you doing that for? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Everybody, when they say the word God, it means they're going to have to be external, transcendent, personal cause. That's what they mean? I don't think so. What is personal about God? Where do you get this crap? What is personal about the universe? I don't see anything personal about it whatsoever. I see it as being incredibly impersonal. It doesn't ask permission to play with you, and it plays with you without ever you getting to counter-argue at all.
Number two, God's existence is implied by the origin of the universe.
Sounds like the same argument. Okay, so this is the second point. So the first point we've dispensed with, right? I mean, the idea of eternal super chicken sitting around forever to cluck the human race is just nonsense. It's not an explanation of existence. It certainly can be countered. If I'm allowed to create eternal forces, I can certainly just create an eternal clock that drips little bits of photons through an hourglass or something. I can come up with some other mechanical device that creates the energy that over time condensates into, humans eventually through evolution. So anyway, the second argument's sounding a lot like the first, but let's see where it goes.
Theist could try to escape the argument I just gave by saying that the universe exists necessarily by its own nature. But this second argument blocks that escape route.
Well, let's hear it.
For anything that exists necessarily must exist eternally. Think about it. If a thing came into existence or ceased to exist, then we know that its non-existence is possible. That is to say, it doesn't exist necessarily.
Yeah, again, it's really depends on what you think exist is in this container thing called time. And if time isn't a reality, if time is merely what takes place as distance is created, as things move apart from each other, they create time by creating distance. And when things consolidate back to their original consolidation, let's call it, time may stop. So that's eternal right there. The non-existence of time, the destruction of time, is the destruction of the universe.
In one of the most startling developments of modern science, we now have pretty strong evidence that the universe is not eternal in the past, but had an absolute beginning about 13 billion years ago.
Yeah, well, you're going to talk about that's what scientists say or something. And yeah, well, the Big Bang has nothing to say about what happened 1 millisecond before the Big Bang. It has something to say about the fact that time may not exist in that plasma, and that 1 second could be a zillion years long, that time becomes irrelevant. But if you could go back in time, if you could go 1 second previous to the Big Bang, that there might have been the collapse of the previous universe. It could be a cycle that goes forever.
In a cataclysmic event known as the Big Bang. What makes the Big Bang so startling is that it represents...
Cataclysmic. See, what does that even mean? Why are you using a word like cataclysmic? There's no catastrophe connected to the Big Bang. It's in fact, it's even some religious people accept science, and they've conceded the existence of these forces, and they say God initiated them. So the Big Bang was God's initiation of life in the universe. So that wouldn't be called a cataclysm by your own pro-life position. I mean, without it, you wouldn't have any pro-life position.
The origin of the universe from literally nothing. For all matter and energy, even physical space and time.
Yeah, well, again, you premise this as making it sound like scientists say that. No scientist is saying that. No scientist is saying it came from nothing. That there's no cause and effect. No, none of them are saying that. So you just made that up. Bogus. buddy.
Themselves came into being at the Big Bang. As the British physicist P.C.W. Davies explains, the coming into being of the universe, as discussed in modern science, is not just a matter of imposing some sort of organization upon a previous incoherent state, but the literal coming into being of all physical things from nothing.
Well, of course, all physical things are made out of energy. Okay, all the energy was reduced to its crudest form in the initiation of the Big Bang. So one could argue again that once you take all the energy and you consolidate it to this tip of the point on a pin in size, the whole universe reduced to a pinhead, there's no distance, and therefore there's no time. So this argument is nothing.
This description holds not only for the standard Big Bang model, but also for quantum gravity models, like that of the famous physicist Stephen Hawking. Hence, Hawking reports in his book, The Nature of Space and Time, almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning at the Big Bang.
Right. So the argument is the forces that make up the universe were created with the initiation of the expansion of the atomic energy. And but there's no argument being made about what was the instigation of that phenomenon, or what took place, what cause and effect reality functions to initiate it. That's not part of the argument. No one's arguing that the Big Bang came from a clucking chicken.
Not only does this imply that the universe is not necessary in its existence, but it also raises the inevitable question, why? Why did the universe come into being 13 billion years ago? What brought the universe into existence?
Yeah, well, looking at it, 13 billion years ago, so something sat around for 13 billion years, a god, presumably, and just said, I don't think I'll be bothered with anything. And then all of a sudden just said one day, oh no, I think I'll make human beings. La 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 la. Or the explanation is, yeah, a bunch of matter expanded, it consolidated, and then it evolved on planet Earth through starting with very crude life forms and a DNA molecule, and all of that biological evidence proving and demonstrating evolution. We know where we came from. I mean, this is really a closed door. You're really out of luck. The biological evidence of evolution is solid, and you're lost with this argument that you need a God to initiate it. God is not necessary.
Well, unless you're willing to say that the universe just popped into being uncaused out of absolutely nothing.
Yeah, right. So that's your paraphrase of everybody else's argument. That's what they're saying. And if they talk about the universal cycling, or if they talk about the fact that time is destroyed by the consolidation of the atomic energy, no, that's not valid for some reason. No, you're just ignoring that argument and pretending no one's ever made it to you, and I'm sure people have. So you're just kind of a liar, which is, a violation of one of your 10 commandments, which makes you a sinner, which means you're going to fucking hell. Cunt.
There must be a transcendent cause beyond space and time which created the universe.
Say, it sounds like number one again, right? There must be a transcendent. Why didn't you say personal whatever thing again?
Thus, from one, everything that comes into being has a cause, and two, the universe came into being, it follows logically that three, therefore, the universe has a cause.
And somehow that means God. The super chicken is the cause. No, that doesn't follow at all. Super chicken not necessary. Super eternal personal super chicken.
Now, as the cause of space and time, this being must be a timeless, spaceless, immaterial being of unfathomable power.
Well, of course it's unfathomable. Yeah, of course, right? Oh, please. Yeah, again, so just make it all up, right? So I could just make it up to be anything. It doesn't have to be God. I can just make it into any kind of preposterously silly device and say it's external to the universe. It has unfathomable abilities and processes, and it's not made of anything, and but it can make physical things. It itself isn't physical, but it can make physical, and that's supposed to make sense. It just wishes it into existence. It just thinks it into existence, whatever it does. But yes, the non-real thing makes real things. Oh, sure. Why not? Oh, because it's a preposterous theory. That's why not. It's nonsense. It's rubbish. Again, I could make up anything. The Hoobies did it. The green eggs and ham did it.
Moreover, it must be personal as well. We've already seen...
Well, personal. Now let's get to this personal crap, because this has got to be pretty funny.
In one reason why this cause must be personal, let me give another. How else could a timeless cause give rise to a temporal effect? Like...
Timeless give rise to temporal. Well, those are the properties of the physical world it created. Why is that personal?
The universe. If the cause were an impersonal set of necessary and sufficient conditions, then the cause could never exist without its effect.
And the cause couldn't exist without its effect. Cause couldn't exist without... I mean, I'm sorry, yeah, I don't really know how that's evidence of anything. The cause couldn't exist without its effect, right? So why do we have to do this, whatever, this external, non-real creator of reality thing?
The sufficient conditions were eternally present, then the effect would be eternally present as well.
Yeah, well, that's the argument that's within the realm of reasonable here, is that the effect is eternal, the universe expands, and then the universe contracts. You've heard of that argument, haven't you? You know, that the universe is going to do this pixelating thing at the same time, though it's going to create extra heavy gravity and pull its whole self back together again, kind of thing. I mean, it's out there as a theory.
Well, the only way for the cause to be timeless and the effect to begin in time is for the cause to be a personal agent who freely chooses to create an effect in time without any prior determining conditions.
Oh, whatever that means. So he never had the idea, but he chose to create the universe. But he never had the pre-initiating thought process. Well, it doesn't matter anyway, because his thinking's unfathomable anyway. We can't even fathom what he's thinking. So brilliantly brilliant. Yeah, that's why he had to keep... Well, let's not even get into that. We won't argue specific religions, but yeah, the Christian God isn't exactly perfect.
And thus we are brought not merely to a transcendent cause of the universe, but to its personal creator.
Right, whatever that means again. Personal creator. You're just saying, what? A creator who had a personal initiative? I don't even know what this means. So, nonsense all over the place. Cluck, cluck. Cluck, cluck, cluck.
Number 3, the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life points to a designer of the cosmos. In recent decades, scientists have been stunned by the discovery that the initial conditions of the Big Bang were fine-tuned for the existence of intelligent life with a precision and delicacy that literally defy human comprehension.
Oh, whatever. So this is just a lie. They're going to name these scientists who find it perplexing or amazing in some way? There's nothing. What's the amazing part? We saw where we came from. Trilobite. The fact that the universe has properties consistent with It's like saying that the game of Monopoly has properties related to money exchange and finance. Of course it does. The thing that we are the byproduct of course its forces and its its conditions are going to be conducive to our creation, because obviously we got created, you dumb person.
This fine-tuning is of two sorts. First, when the laws of nature are expressed as mathematical equations, you find appearing in them certain constants, like the gravitational constant. These constants are not determined by the laws of nature. The laws of nature are consistent with a wide range of values for these constants.
I don't know, that sounds like garbage to me. Didn't he just say the constants aren't constant? Huh? Sorry, no.
Second, in addition to these constants, there are certain arbitrary quantities, which are just put in as initial conditions on which the laws of nature operate. For example, the amount of entropy, or the balance between matter and antimatter in the universe.
Well, look, the existence of anything called antimatter is kind of bogus anyway. You just can't make these arguments, okay? The forces are really consistent. They play themselves out. There's no inconsistencies in the data. And the only thing that's missing is, yeah, there's some stuff that's so small that we can't see it.
Now, all of these constants and quantities fall into an extraordinarily narrow, I mean, I cannot convey to you how almost infinitesimal this is, an extraordinarily narrow range of life-permitting values. Were these constants...
Whatever, this is all just nonsense. Life-permitting values? I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, really, all you need, if once you have the elements, all right, and you have the function of planet creation, you have all there is. You're going to have the possibility of creating a replicating piece of chemistry, but just the possibility, and it's a thin possibility.
Or quantities to be altered by even a hair's breadth, the life-permitting balance would be destroyed and life would not exist.
Oh, whatever. Gold wouldn't exist. The elements wouldn't exist. Yes, the universe would be different if the properties of the universe were different. Duh. Duh.
For example, if the atomic weak force, or the force of gravity, were altered by as little as 1 part out of 10 to the 100th power, the universe would not have been life-permitting.
Oh, whatever. This is just, again, this is just nonsense. You don't even know what possible forms of replicating molecule could have been possible in some other universe where elements had different properties. So in a universe where elements had different properties, where atoms were 5 times the size or 500 times the size or some other thing, maybe replication would be even more likely. So this is just stupid.
Now, there are only 3 possible explanations of this extraordinary fine-tuning. The fine-tuning of the universe is due to either physical necessity, chance, or design. Now, it can't be due to physical necessity because, as we've seen, the constants and quantities are independent of the laws of nature.
Independent of the laws of nature. I don't even know what that means. How does exactly the laws of nature could be independent of the laws of nature? Yeah, sorry.
So, could the fine-tuning be due to chance? Well, the problem with this alternative is that the odds against the fine-tunings occurring by accident are so incomprehensibly great.
Prove that, please. Show me how you do that math. Show me by what possible knowledge, what possible insight into the possibilities of physical dynamics changed by changing gravitational forces or changing weak or strong forces within the structure of atomic structure, how you know what would be possible with those changes? Show me some kind of evidence. Oh, forget about it. You're not going to do that.
That they cannot be reasonably faced. The probability that all the constants and quantities would fall by chance alone into the life-permitting range is vanishingly small.
Again, he just made that up. There's just no math to justify that. None.
We now know that life-prohibiting universes are vastly more probable than any life-permitting universe.
We now know this is a lie. Sorry, that's a lie. Nobody. Who the hell would say that? Who the hell could prove that? That you can know what the physical compound possibilities are if the 110 elements were a different 110 elements? And you know how they would combine already? You know all the permutations of their combination? Oh, no, I don't think you do.
Verse like ours. So, if the universe were a product of chance, the odds are overwhelming that the universe would be life.
Yeah, well, like I said, you just made that up. Okay, you didn't do any math. You have nothing to demonstrate these odds, these probabilities. You just made it up.
Prohibiting. Hence, 2, the fine-tuning is not due to either physical necessity or chance. But logically, that implies 3, therefore, it is due to design.
Yeah, well, gee, isn't that convenient? Just so silly. So anyway, again, the argument being made here is that water is wet, and it wouldn't be wet if you changed the universe that created wet water. Duh. Yeah, duh. If you change the properties of the atomic structure, then all of a sudden the compounds would change. Yeah, duh.
Thus, the fine-tuning of the universe implies the existence of a designer of the cosmos.
Well, anyway, that's just an incredibly weak argument. We know how we evolved on this planet.
Number 4, objective moral values are plausibly grounded in God.
Why even go into this? Objective moral values has something to do with a proof of God's existence? Sorry, that's not going to work at all.
God does not exist, then objective moral values do not exist.
Says you. What we can know objectively is that there's such a thing as bad sensations and good sensations, and we can make rational statements about what creates more good sensation, what creates more bad sensations. And anybody who thinks their universe should have more bad sensations in it, we could declare them stupid.
By objective values, I mean values which are valid and binding whether anybody believes in them or not. Many theists and atheists alike agree that if God does not exist, then moral values are not objective.
Well, there's no cop. That's right. There's no super chicken to pluck your eyes out if you're a naughty boy. That's right. We don't believe the super chicken will pluck your eyes out if you're bad. Or put you in snake pit hell. Yeah, that's right. There's no eternal punishment for your mortal, time-restrained naughtiness.
In this way, Michael Roos, a noted philosopher of science, explains, the position of the modern evil...
The consequence of bad acts is the punishment for the bad act. The suffering of the equal slaves was the punishment for the stupidity of the slave owner. The punishment is experienced in the creation of the suffering, the imposition of it. We are our own victim, quite obviously. If there's no real substantive distinction between my welfare and the slave's welfare, how could I possibly profit from his punishment? No, that's right, I couldn't.
evolutionist is that morality is a biological adaptation, no less than our hands and feet and teeth, considered as a rationally justifiable set of claims about an objective something.
Yes, it's just a statement about efficiency. And you either do it or you don't do it. You are either productive or you are destructive. The punishment for being destructive is in the destruction you create, in the suffering you impose. That's the punishment being experienced.
Ethics is illusory. I appreciate that when somebody says, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," they think they are referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is...
Oh, it's without foundation. I mean, what an incredible statement to make. I mean, the simple efficiency of recognizing that you don't want damage done to you, so if you guarantee to do no damage to something else, you have an expectation of no damage to yourself, that this contract could be very profitable. Yeah, don't do damage contract. Yeah, that makes sense.
just an aid to survival and reproduction, and any deeper meaning is illusory.
Right, that's just stupid. Okay, there is deeper meaning to sacrificing some of your time to cure polio or something. The fact is, that's good. And it's bad if you spend your time contemplating how to, rape your neighbor's wife.
Friedrich Nietzsche, the great 19th century atheist who proclaimed the death of God, understood that the death of God meant the destruction of all meaning and value in life.
Yeah, whatever. Just absolute nonsense. Right, I can't figure out that feelings are the only thing that really matter. Feeling good versus feeling like shit. I can tell the difference between those two things. I can know that the one thing has good value and the other one has bad value. One is the price you pay, and the other is the profit you glean. Duh.
I think that Friedrich Nietzsche was right. But we've got to be very careful here. The question here is not, must we believe in God in order to live moral lives? I'm not claiming that we must. Nor is the question, can we recognize objective moral values without believing in God? I think that we can.
Well, that doesn't make any sense with your previous statement. So you're just playing word games now, because you just said the two are not compatible.
Rather, the question is, if God does not exist, do objective moral values exist? And like Professor Roos, I just don't see any reason to think that in the absence of God, the herd morality evolved by Homo sapiens is objective. On the
Well, again, it's what you're going to qualify this with the word objective, and that all that means is reasonable. So yes, reasonable values, logically consistent, evidentially founded. Yes, logically deducible. Shit.
theistic view, some action, say rape, may not be socially advantageous, and so in the course of human development has become taboo. But that does absolutely nothing to prove that rape is really wrong.
Well, yes, it does. You can rationally argue that it's wrong because it's a sentient creature being put in a negative state of being unnecessarily for no real, for no acceptable gain. It's not enough of a profit to justify the loss. It's not complicated.
On the atheistic view, there's nothing really wrong with your raping someone. Thus, one, if God does not...
So he said that we could do this objective value thing. He says, I'm not telling you you can't, and yet he's saying you can't, because all of a sudden he's saying that somehow we can't figure out rape is wrong logically. No, we can.
not exist, objective moral values do not exist. But the problem is that objective values do exist, and deep down I think we all know it. There's no more reason.
Yeah, it's like what? Have no other God before me. Make no engraven images. Oh yes, that objective moral value of not making an engraved image. It's so frickin' important. Don't want something. Yes, don't covet. Oh, what a terrible thing to do. You wanted. Ooh, horror, horror. Yeah, I mean, it's, it's okay to take, but don't want. Yeah, right. It's okay to take a woman's dignity. It's okay to steal the freedom of another man, but it's not okay to want. Fuck you.
To deny the objective reality of moral values than the objective reality of the physical world. Actions like rape, cruelty, and child abuse aren't
all things the Bible finds excuses for all over the damn place. So you can't even make an argument for morality from frickin' God books anyway. Most gods are disgusting, debaucherous assholes in what they permitted in their, in the name of themselves. So this is just a silly argument. Fucking child molester.
Just a socially unacceptable behavior. They're moral abominations. And here Dr. Dacey agrees with me. In his book, The Case for Humanism, co-authored with Lewis Vaughn, they state, if a moral theory sanctions, say, the inflicting of undeserved and unnecessary suffering on innocent children, we must conclude that something is very wrong with the theory. Indeed, even Michael Roos himself admits.
Yeah, well, again, it just comes from the obvious premise. The obvious premise, right? That I know I'm in two qualitative states, okay? That there are states that are not good and states that are good. And that's all I need to create value. And what I'm saying is I can't be in a good state at somebody else's expense, that there's no profit in that. If I'm putting somebody else in a bad state to have my good state, I can logically understand that doesn't make any sense. Because somebody else isn't lesser than me. So I first have to draw some kind of stupid conclusion that my victim isn't a real person or a thing of adequate cognitive sentient quality to deserve consideration.
It's the man who says it is morally acceptable to rape little children is just as mistaken as the man who says 2 + 2 = 5. Some things, at least, are really wrong. Similarly, look.
Again, it's not that hard to draw these conclusions. There are obviously no probability of any gain being extracted from such behavior. That can be understood. No qualitative thriving will be produced.
Love, equality, and self-sacrifice are really good. Hence, I think we all know, number two, that objective values do exist. But then it follows logically and inescapably that three, therefore, God exists.
Well, again, you don't need a God to understand the difference between a fucking pencil in your eye and no pencil in your eye. I don't need God to tell me it sucks to have a pencil in my eye. And that's all I have to know to create a moral code, is to know that suffering sucks and not suffering doesn't suck. There, I have the foundation for morality.
Number five, the historical facts concerning the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus.
Oh, forget about it. Yeah, we could skip this part, right? No, I think we'll end here. So maybe I'll come back to this, but yeah, we're not going to do that. There's no historical facts here. This is just such a pile of crap. No way you're going to pull that one off, buddy. So anyway. It says in the book that the book is real. Yeah, the book of real stuff says that the book of bullshit is real bullshit. Well, the book validates the book that validates the book. And Professor What's-His-Face says What's-His-Face book is even What's-His-Face. I mean, there's no way you're going to be able to do that. Lose, fail, you're done. You're supposed to be arguing about God's existence anyway, not a Christian God. So why didn't you say Christian God exists? Right now you're going to do this biblical Jesus bullshit. Shit. I mean, really, shit. Bogus, bogus, bogus. Alarm should have gone off. That should, I mean, the debate should have just been stopped right there and they say, okay, let's redefine this debate. So you're defending a Christian God's existence, right? That's your argument now? It's not just a God, it's a Christian God with Jeebus and all? Oh, yeah. The poor will be with you always. So your eternal God creates life on planet Earth so the poor can be with you always. That's the promise of your God. Your God has promised us the poor will be with you always. That's his promise. Your God sucks. Yeah, sorry, fail. Yeah. So on that account alone, the fact that your God can't figure out that the poor is a thing to be cleaned up, it's to be elevated out of poverty, not to be there perpetually. The fact that your God can't figure that one out means he isn't worth even bothering with. Even if he did exist, you should kick him in the nuts. The end. Or in his little chicken nut sack that hangs below his beak there, turkey thing or whatever that is, gobbler. Kick the chicken in his gobbler. Yeah, makes about much sense. Anyway, fuck you.